Mike, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Oh, it's good to be back. Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, so tell us about what's been building down there in Chapel Hill. You're less than a month until the opener with TCU coming to town. We know there's a lot of buzz around the program at this point. Tell us how you've assimilated to life in Chapel Hill at this point.
It's been a blast. I mean, it's been a lot of fun, and it's been good. I mean, it's no different than really working in the NFL. It's, you have to team build. We have a salary cap. We have to allocate dollars to the players because of the wonderful, the players are going to get paid. And so it's been great. And working with Coach Belichick again is always fun for me and the coaching staff. So we're having a really good time. And, we're just trying to build something here in the program that can sustain itself for a long period. This is a wonderful university.
How did that come about, you taking this job? Did Bill come, once he was hired, did he come to you and say, hey, I want you to run the program? Did you reach out to him? Did you second-guess the decision based on the fact that these are college kids, you're not dealing with professionals, although some of them are getting paid like professionals, but how'd that come about?
Well, we were doing a podcast together last year, so we saw each other all the time, twice a week and at NFL Films. So we had a lot of conversations. And then through those conversations about, there certainly always was job openings going to occur in the National Football League. And we would talk about, the positives and negatives of those. And the conversation kind of went to college. And really, we both agreed college is no different than the pro right now. I mean, there's obviously challenges in terms of recruiting, but the beautiful thing about college is, if you don't draft a guy that you want in the second round and, a team picks him 3 picks before you pick, sometimes you're messed up. I mean, you're never as fortunate as the Ravens, which I wrote about in my book, Football Done Right. I mean, Ozzy's sitting there waiting for Napoleon Harris, and we pick them at the Raiders, and they don't know who to pick, and they're going back and forth. They use up almost all the time, and they turned in a card for Ed Reed. And if you go back and read any of the headlines from that time, Ed Reed was viewed as a horrible pick. So, you get lucky, and Ozzy made a great pick. But in college football, if I don't get a 4-star tight end and I have to go to the next one, there's another one coming down the street.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how do you make that? How do you make that call? What makes when you have a bunch of kids that are kind of similarly rated? How do you decide which ones to go with and which ones to pass on? Is it just kind of the first one that's willing to commit?
No, I think you have to have an order, right? It's no different than an NFL draft board. You don't take somebody who you're going to pick in the 7th ahead of somebody you would pick in the 1st, right? So you have to kind of play it on, and the kids kind of know it too. I think one of the things you see in this is you see a lot of kids that commit and then they change their commitment. Well, what the kids are doing is holding on to a commitment. They want to make sure they have a place to go.
Right.
And so they make a commitment, and then the recruiting really doesn't stop. People are still recruiting your players and you're recruiting other teams' players. The commitment is almost like a holding pattern. So you just go on to the next one. But I think you have to have an order, and that's why you have to have a pro system. You have to have a grading system. That's what we have here at University of North Carolina, just like I wrote about in my first book. If you don't have a grading system, you'll never build the kind of team you want.
Mike, I don't know if this is accurate, but I'm just kind of looking at a depth chart here online on Our Lads, and I'm sure your depth chart's different than what they have here. They don't know your program like you do, but it looks like you got about 35 or 40 transfers. Is that pretty accurate? And if it is, man, how did you get that done? And when did that start?
Well, it started when we got here on December 12th, and that was when the portal was open, but we actually have 70 new players. We missed the first window of recruiting. Mac Brown's recruiting class before he left was signed the first part of December, so we inherited those players. And then we started out embarking on signing players into the cap era once we got here in December, and that lasted through till the middle of January. And then the spring portal really is where we did most of our adjustments to our roster, because we felt like, when we got here, we were just trying to collect players. And in the spring portal, which was in April, we were able to team build at that point. So we were able to rebuild the offensive and defensive lines and structure the team in a way that we view how you have to win in college football, which is the same way you have to win in pro football, which is You've got to have a quarterback that can make plays, and you have to have good offensive and defensive linemen. And hopefully in our spring portal, we accomplish that.
Tell me about Gio Lopez, who I don't know much about. I know he was at South Alabama before he came in. Is he number one on your depth chart right now? Is he going to be your starter?
Well, he's competing for the job, but Gio was very good at South Alabama, playing for Major Applewhite. He did not enter the winter portal. He had a lot of teams that were trying to see if they could get him into the winter portal. He did not go in. He's a kid from North Alabama who will remind you, and I'm going to date myself here, but he reminds you a lot of Steve Young, left-handed, can really run, has great rhythm, great touch to the football, and he's got dynamic leadership skills. So it's just something that we desperately needed here at North Carolina. Part of building a culture, part of putting a team in place is you got to have players that adhere to the culture, that adhere to what you want to accomplish. And that's what I wrote about in Gridiron Genius, and I think Gio does all those things. He's got really good arm strength, and he can run with the football well, so he can have that college element where you get a second play off of a bad play, and we're excited to work with him.
Mike, is it weird to you when you look at the ACC? Now, this is not the ACC that we grew up with. This is 18 teams. Some of the newest teams include Cal, Stanford, SMU. What's that changing landscape like with all these mega conferences, with the ACC now expanding to 18 teams?
Well, I think, one of the things I learned being in the National Football League, especially when I was in Cleveland, we were so obsessed with beating the Broncos and the great John Elway that we kind of lost our way a little bit. And I think when I would also look back, back when the NFC East was dominating Washington, New York, Dallas, and Philly, they would go to Denver and just easily beat the Broncos. I mean, look at the Broncos in the Super Bowls, how they struggled to win with Dan Reeves' Super Bowl. It's one of the reasons why Dan Reeves, who has one of the few men in the world that has 200 wins counting playoffs, can't get into the Hall of Fame. It's a tragedy. I mean, Marty Schottenheimer is one of 9 coaches in the National Football League, one of 9. Of over 550 head coaches who have called themselves head coaches who can't get into the Hall of Fame because he didn't win a Super Bowl, because he never got to a Super Bowl. But he's one of the men who's won 200 games in his life. Mm-hmm. That's a rare thing to do. And so when I was in Denver, when I was in Cleveland, we were so preoccupied with trying to beat Denver that if we would have tried to beat Washington or tried to beat Philly or tried to beat Dallas or New York, we would have easily beaten Denver because they had no problem. So I think instead of focusing on the conference, I think what you have to do is focus on what does it take to win in any conference, and try to build your team that way.
All right, let's switch to the NFL here. Just kind of give me your thoughts on, McLaurin obviously has been a huge topic here.
They're all stories. I mean, this is the season of hold-ins. The system was built so that we didn't have holdouts, and the players found a way, along with the clubs agreeing, to allow players to hold in, so they get away from the fines. But it's all just tactical. I mean, everybody demands to be traded. Everybody wants to get traded. And it's all about contracts and negotiations. And the one thing about the National Football League, different than college football, is the NFL shares all their player contract information. So you have a way. The debate that's going on out in Ashburn is not do they want to pay McLaurin, is where does McLaurin think he ranks compared to Jamar Chase and some of the other receivers, and how much of the guaranteed money is he willing to take and not willing to take. I think there lies the debate. Is what, again, it comes back to what's the grade on the player. If Chase got X and T. Higgins got Y, then what am I worth? And you have to kind of put that, and that's the conversation. To characterize this as not being close would be ridiculous. I mean, Washington knows what the market is, and so do the agents, and so they're trying to get as much as they can. It's just it's the summer season of posturing.
Yeah, just part of the business. Same with Micah Parsons, right?
Well, it is, and the media, takes bait on it all the time. What did you see the other day? Micah Parsons wants to get traded. Seriously,
right?
I could have predicted that back in February.
Yeah,
it's just part of the. Just go to Playbook 101 on contract negotiations. Demand to be traded if you don't get what you want. Well, I mean, you're not going to get traded. That's the system that you're in.
Well, can you kind of handicap the NFC East? Where do the Skins/Commanders fit in? What do you expect
I
of
wish they
Jaden?
would go back to their name. I really do. I mean, I grew up a Redskin fan. They're going to go back at RFK Stadium. I mean, everybody seems to want it, except for I don't know who doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
But that helmet's still one of the greatest helmets of all time in the National Football League. Look, everybody's more worried. I wrote about George Preston Marshall. I mean, we took away the name the Redskins, and we keep George Preston Marshall, who clearly, if you study history of the NFL, which I wrote about in this book, Football Done Right, he set football back tremendously because of his inability to want to have racial equality within the National Football League.
Mm-hmm.
And he's still in the Hall of Fame. Nobody's kicked him out of the Hall of Fame, and it's proven. I mean, he was the last team to get a black player, Bobby Mitchell, on the team, and yet he's still involved in the Washington folklore, which to me is a bigger injustice, especially considering that everybody wants to have the name back.
But handicap the NFC East, can you? I know you're locked in on college, but
I think Philly obviously is still going to be the team to beat. You know, they do a good job of adjusting to their season. I thought last year Howie did a wonderful job of addressing what his team needs were and fixing them. But look, I mean, Jaden Daniels has done an incredible job of what he did with Washington. It's, you know, the hardest thing to do in any sport is to go from good to great, right? Everybody can get to good. It's that next level. And typically you need to have everybody buy in and go from there. I mean, it all comes down to quarterbacking play, right? I mean, Washington has got a great one. Jalen Hurts with Barkley allows him. Now, injury will play a huge factor. But, Washington, Philadelphia, New York with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, that's going to be an interesting team to watch because those two players have not been exactly lighting it up at quarterback position in the recent years.
Just the last question on Terry. I know you got to run too. At the end of the day, it doesn't seem like he has much leverage, right? He's not going to miss games and cost him more money. It's just like career suicide.
Well, that's why he's holding in. That's why he doesn't want to lose money.
So what do you see at the end scenario? I mean, are the Skins going to budge?
No, he'll make a deal. They'll make a deal.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, fear does the work of reason. If I fear I'm going to lose a check, I'm more reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it'll happen. All right.
Well, Mike, we appreciate the time. Check out his book.
Appreciate you having me.
Thank
you, Mike.
His book in paperback now, Football Done Right, setting the record straight on the coaches, players, and history of the NFL. That was Mike Lombardi. He is the general manager of the UNC football program. When we come back, we'll get into EB's entertainment page. He will entertain the masses.
I got you.
Next.